Good morning, and welcome to the Boulder Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I'm Claire Marie Wall. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm joined today by some wonderful people. By Mary Stackpole, who is Service Associate today. Guest speakers, Marianne Lawler and Maggie Kerrigan, who are the coordinators of the Fellowship's Covenant groups. Today's music is provided by Julie Morris on piano, and also Mary Stackpole as song leader. Today's tech team is Deborah Mensch, Larry Sherwood, and Charlie Morris. As I say the welcome words this morning, I invite you to listen deeply to these familiar words, one of the few rituals we share. You are all welcome here today. In the beauty of languages, cultures, skin tones, shapes and sizes, gifts and challenges that come together in your uniqueness, you are welcome here. In all the ways you experience and express gender, you are welcome here. In the beauty that is who you love and how you love, you are welcome here. In the ways you make your living and the places you are from, you are welcome here. With all the traditions that inform your spiritual life, you are welcome here today. No matter how long you are away or how soon you will return, you are welcome here. Whether you come with laughter in your hearts or tears, you are welcome here. You are invited to join us with a curious mind, a loving heart, and a willing spirit. We welcome you today. If you're new here, we're glad you found us. And we hope that in this community, whether you're with us in person or virtually, you can experience the warmth and love of this congregation. Please come back a few times to get to know us. We have many opportunities during the week for social connection and spiritual growth. Those on Zoom can check out the links in the chat to help you get connected, and those in person can stop by the welcome table in the foyer for fellowship information and our newcomer form. It's also on the QR code in the back of the hymnal, the gray hymnal. Everyone on Zoom is welcome to stay for casual conversation following the service, or if you're here in person today, you are invited to coffee hour in the fellowship hall, a very important event. Now, if you're joining us on Zoom, please feel free to greet each other in the Zoom chat, and if you're a newcomer on Zoom, let us know so we can greet you. We'd love to know who's among us. And for those of you in the sanctuary, please take a moment to greet your neighbor. And now, much as I hate to stop the chat, now is the time for our chalice lighting, another one of our rituals. Zoomies, if you have a chalice at home, you can light it with me as as Mary Stackpole lights our fellowship chalice. And write the name of your town, please, chalice lit in wherever. And those of you who are here, please say the words along with me as Mary lights our chalice. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action. I'll sing our bowl again and invite you to follow the sound deep into the moment so that we can make contact with each other in this beloved community. As you probably know, our Boulder Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship is made up of many different kinds of communities. One of the largest is our gathering together here on Sunday mornings, during services in the sanctuary, and later over coffee in the fellowship hall. But another kind of spiritual community that you may not know about consists of our smaller gatherings called covenant groups. The word covenant means agreement, an agreement between two people or among a group. As an example of a covenant, Walter Royal Jones, Jr., who served the Foothills Unitarian Church in Fort Collins for about 30 years, offers these covenantal words. Mindful of truth ever exceeding our knowledge, and community ever exceeding our practice, reverently we covenant together, beginning with ourselves as we are, to share the strength of integrity and the heritage of the Spirit in the unending quest for wisdom and love. Mindful, humble, reverent, sharing, and questing. These words exemplify the nature of our covenant groups, in my experience. So during our service today, the two coordinators of the covenant groups, Marianne Lawler and Maggie Kerrigan, and I, hope to introduce you to their history and practices. Perhaps along the way, you'll feel drawn to join us. And we will now sing our first hymn.
Yes. Good morning. We have lots of good music to share today. Our first song will be in the gray hymnal. It is number 347, Gather the Spirit. Again, number 347, and you're invited to rise in body or in spirit.
Witness the mystery of this Hi, I'm Marianne Lawler. I use she, her pronouns. As Claire Marie mentioned, I'm co-coordinator of the Covenant Groups along with Maggie Kerrigan. I'd like to talk with you about Covenant Groups today, but first I'd like to take a step back and check in to see how you're doing, because that's how we begin Covenant Group meetings. So I've been thinking a lot about transition lately. My daughter Emma will be starting high school. My son Abe will be starting middle school. So we spent the whole summer saying goodbye to parts of what used to be our normal life, making room for taking on more responsibility and new opportunities. And kids around me are also hitting milestones. You may be meeting some of them in our community. I was talking recently with a high school graduate about going to college and was thrown back to that major transition in my life, remembering what it was like to figure out my identity in a new place and finding community. And of course, our fellowship is facing a big transition right now with a new minister. As you know, we said our goodbye to Reverend Lydia in January, and we're getting ready for our interim minister to join us next month. So transition for us as individuals is a time for us to check in with ourselves about what we need for self-care and support. For myself, I check in to reflect, who am I now? And where do I find community to fit my needs? For our fellowship, transition is a tender time for all of us. Even though we've been preparing for it in as many ways as we know how, we are sure to have feelings come up and be surprised by how certain moments affect us as changes happen. But our connections within this community will support us as we move through these waves. So covenant groups are one of the places that you can connect deeply here. But there are lots of options to get involved here, you say. I agree. That's one of the things I love about our community. But you see, when I graduated from college, I moved across the country and suddenly had to meet new people on purpose. Fortunately, it was fortunate. I figured out a personality hack that got around my fears as an introvert. If I had a commitment to do something with people, it provided a place to make friends. There was shared intent, no small talk required, and time together for a shared purpose. And figuring this out about myself threw me into volunteering and small groups to find connection. I've swapped communities several times, and this is a hack that works for me. On the flip side, I've also found that I can overdo it and get too tied up in the doing. Book discussion groups as an alternative give me more space and spark my mind, but there's a deeper need that I was covering up with my busyness until I found covenant groups. What is a covenant group? I'll read from our group webpage. Covenant group members support each other on their spiritual journeys while forming meaningful relationships. These small ministry groups meet monthly to support spiritual themes taken from Soul Matters, listen deeply to each other, and celebrate the connections in their lives. Covenant group members support each other for a season of September through May, and some come back year after year. As I mentioned, I tend to get busy when I want to connect. So being part of a covenant group has been a great antidote for me because I realized I had become burnt out with giving. Thankfully, in a covenant group, all that is really expected is to just be together in that space. We covenant together for the group to be a safe space. Each month we look at the Soul Matters materials, which, by the way, are available to all members on the website in the members only section, with lots of inspiring readings, activities, videos, quotes, and even music. Choose what you like to be inspired, and then reflect on how it touches your life. And then we listen to each other as we share our thoughts. Kind of a simple outline, but let me tell you what I found most profound. Within a covenant group meeting, there's a portion where each member gets to share, each for the same amount of time. And that time is for you to speak or to take in the quiet as the group listens or just sits in the quiet with you. We call it deep listening because there is no discussion or commentary on your thoughts. We're just here to hear you. That listening to or listening for is so powerful. It's so touching to experience others focused on hearing your words to support you. It affirms my humanness. It makes me feel valued. It allows me to hear the wisdom that hides within me when I speak. And it expands my heart when I listen to others. How curious and beautiful it is to be human in this life. Sometimes what we do is big. Sometimes what we do is small. But always inside, we're growing. My time in a covenant group has given me space to question my beliefs and see if I am walking my talk. It's given me a place to be spiritually courageous. I can be wrong or try new thoughts as I tussle with new ideas and question myself to see differently. My covenant group experiences have filled my cup in new ways, finding curiosity for myself and my life, finding community and connection, all with compassion for our shared humanness. This is more than just finding calm in a busy life. It's finding interconnected inspiration and listening to the wisdom within. So speaking as a co-coordinator, there's some variation in our covenant groups. Groups may use different parts of the Soul Matters content, and some groups are shaped around a shared identity or interest. I'm part of a group that's all parents. There's an LGBTQIA+ group and men's and women's groups as well, and the possibility for more. Each group writes a covenant together to make a safe space for spiritual sharing, and they decide the details of that commitment to each other. So, new groups start in September, and sign-up has started. You'll hear more about that today. As I close, here's a thought. Transition is a time to reground ourselves, to reconnect. Whether you're feeling a little unmoored and need an anchor, or enthusiastic and looking for inspiration, I invite you to try covenant groups to feel connected and re-energized in a new way with the river in your soul.
If you didn't guess from Marianne's beautiful transition there, our next hymn will be There's a River Flowing in My Soul. It's in your teal hymnal. The number is 1007, 1007. Please join me and rise in body or in spirit.
Flowing in my soul.
be seated. Each week, we remind ourselves of the abundance of our lives and this community by giving away half of our plate to those organizations that share our values, with our current emphasis on food insecurity. Today, the half plate is for Broomfield Fish Fellowship in Serving Humanity. Broomfield's Food Bank and Family Resource Center was founded 60 years ago by 6 women from 6 churches who began feeding hungry Broomfield residents. FISH provides a food pantry, financial resources, and one-on-one mentoring to help people become more self-sufficient. FISH helped more than 13,000 Broomfield residents in 2023, and you may donate food at their marketplace and non-perishables at the bins in any Broomfield King Soopers. Hunger remains a prominent concern for many Broomfield residents, and it is worsening as the cost of living skyrockets. So you can text your monetary donation at the number on the screen, or if you're at the fellowship today, you can place a donation in the offering plate as it passes. Please give generously. As Julie plays our musical reflection, you will also see quotes from Covenant Group members about what their groups have meant to them. We also invite you to reflect upon and write into the chat, if you're on Zoom, your answer to this question. When has participation in a group been meaningful to you in a difficult time? for the work of this congregation, bringing love, reason, compassion, and justice to this world. And for Broomfield Fish, we thank you for these offerings. Thank you, Marianne. When I was an undergraduate at the University of Colorado, back in the Pleistocene era, my main social community was what we called the group. This arbitrary collection of students melded in the Kittredge dining hall over our portions of mystery meat were my roommate, 2 male Rocky Mountain Rescue members, a Spanish major, and a humanities major, me. We ate together. We laughed together. We suffered together. You know, we were students together. When my mother phoned to check up on me, her first question was always, "How's the group?" I wasn't a groupie in the modern sense, but I was very glad not to be alone. This group think was an important part of my life, but I forgot about it until I began to attend this fellowship. Suddenly I became part of the Service Associates group, part of a hospitality group, part of a book group, part of a memoir writing group. You get the idea. And I'll bet you're listing the groups you belong to even as I say that. Before long, I'd signed the book and became a member of the fellowship group. Once again, I wasn't alone. My final quest journey in my first year as a Boulder Valley Unitarian Universalist was to join a newly created covenant group. At first, we met in the Red Room down the hall, although our formality soon loosened to meetings in our houses. We are each wonderfully different, but we are exploring in the same general direction toward the, quote, unending quest for wisdom and love, which Walter Royal Jones Jr. speaks of in the covenant I read before. We started by following the clear guidance of our facilitator. But when she had to leave us, our conversations became somewhat more freewheeling, swerving toward politics when absolutely necessary. But always our group meetings were bookended by a chalice lighting and a chalice extinguishing, and we were inspired by some of the soul matters topics, or by poems or by songs, whether helpful or disturbing. But we didn't take the time to compose our own personal covenant for the group, which was recommended, and I really see the virtues of that. We did not always follow the well-thought-out outline that the facilitators give. It makes sure that every member has equal time and a careful consideration from the group as a whole. Primarily, I confess, I know we're not Catholic, but I confess that we have been most heretical when it comes to the practice of deep listening and silent absorbing. But I take the blame fully for that failure, if failure it is, and I think it is. I'm the guilty party. My own family Christmas card when I was 2 years old showed me between my parents with my mouth wide open. I might have been singing, I might have been talking, but don't look surprised. And we professors are talkers. So for me especially, the great virtue of a covenant group is the chance to develop the art, the practice, the gift of deep listening. By the end of my first year, I had made a feeble start, but I have a long way to go. Unlike my fellow covenanters, from whom I have learned so much, and who exemplify courtesy and compassion. That personal failure of mine was the main reason I signed up to be a continuer in our covenant group for another year. to learn from the wisdom achieved and the questions being asked from my fellow group members and from new members too, I hope. In the practice of deep listening, in the comforting presence of people that one can trust not to fix, advise, critique, or shame, we have the opportunity to speak aloud our concerns, our deepest thoughts, our spiritual quandaries. They don't remain in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. Instead, they can find expression and perhaps some unexpected revelation as they are spoken. You know, in a crisis, when the oxygen masks fall from the ceiling, we are told, put your own mask on first before helping another. In a covenant group, I have permission to put my own oxygen mask on first. My fellow members supply the oxygen, fresh, compassionate, thoughtful listening, and then speaking. In turn, I do the same for them. In our time together each month, growing friendships and growing spiritual understanding come together in a refreshing time of discovery and comfort. I guarantee it. And I recommend it. So we are now going to move to another hymn, Break Not the Circle of Enabling Love. I think this may not be as familiar to you as it is to some of us from past UU congregations. And the word enable, of course, can be negative, but in the context of this hymn, it probably means to activate, to make possible. And that's hymn 323 in the Green Hymnal. And Mary will help us with the leadership.
Since this is a newer hymn, perhaps, to some of us, Julie will play it all the way through once before we start singing. Again, the number is 323 in the Great Hymnal. Please rise in body or spirit.
Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not that circle, make it wider still, till it includes, embraces all the living. Come wander at this love that comes to life, where words of freedom are with humor spoken, and people keep no score of wrong and guilt, but will that human bonds remain unbroken. Join then the movement of the love that frees, till people of whatever race or nation will truly be themselves, stand on their feet, see eye to eye with laughter and elation.
Now I invite us into our time of community connection. Mary, are you going to do this? Since we have the ubiquitous Mary Stackpole doing everything this morning. Thank you, Marianne. And this is an opportunity, of course, if you're on Zoom, to share a joy or a concern and type it into the chat window. You can send it to everyone and let us know briefly what's in your heart today, and I will read it out loud. If you're in the sanctuary today, you can come up front, if you want to line up over there, and share your joy or concern using the microphone, holding it straight out in front of you like a rock star, and we will add a stone to the waters. Or you can add a stone in silence. Well, we now have also joys and concerns that are in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. But even in our silence, we are all bound together in the web of life. Thank you, Mary. Now, as a kind of congregational prayer, we decided to use another responsive reading. This is in the gray hymnal number 658, which is near the back. Number 658, and you won't have it up on the screens, but it's there in the book. I will read the first line, and Marianne will lead you to read the response. Are you together? Okay.
Yes, 658.
Okay. To laugh is to risk appearing the fool.
To weep is to risk appearing sentimental.
To reach out for another is to risk exposing our true self.
To place our ideas, our dreams before the crowd is to risk loss.
To love is to risk not being loved in return.
To hope is to risk despair.
To try is to risk failure.
To live is to risk dying.
And we have the chance to sing again.
One last hymn, and this one is, I believe, a crowd favorite. It is, let me find it, number 1008 in the teal hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. Again, that's 1008. Please join me and rise in body or spirit.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
Greetings. I am Maggie Kerrigan, the co-coordinator with Mary Ann of the Covenant Groups of the Fellowship. I use she, her pronouns. There are 2 announcements. In order for the fellowship to meet the requirements to become a welcoming congregation, we are invited to listen to a 40-minute episode of the podcast called Conversion Therapy, the Disinformation Blueprint. The episode is titled The Anti-Trans Hate Machine, A Plot Against Equality. This focuses on how anti-trans politicians and organizations have been whipping up hate against trans people, especially children. We still need 35 more listeners. Once you have listened, please let Clara Kelly know via email at socialjusticecouncil@BVUUF. Please spread the word. The second announcement is that in 2 weeks, on August 11th, there will be an opportunity for folks to sign up in person to join a covenant group after the Sunday service. Sign up is now also available online, and it will continue through August 11. The link is posted in the Connections newsletters. People on Zoom can find the link to sign up online in chat. Most of the 9 existing groups have openings for new members. Additional groups will be created on an as-needed basis. Mary Ann and I will do our best to try to find the right group for you. Those who are already established in a covenant group do not need to sign up again. If you would like more information about covenant groups, feel free to pick up a brochure at the hospitality desk after the service, or check the Connections newsletter beginning with this past Friday's issue. Mary Ann and I will be available after this service at the hospitality desk to answer questions. Thank you.
It is now time to extinguish our chalice, so please join me in the words. We extinguish this chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, nor the energy of action. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again.
So I invite you all to stand if you are comfortable, join hands, link arms, or give yourself a hug if you don't want to be touched today. This nice connection moment at the end of our service. So our closing words are from Wayne B. Aronson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage. For deep down, there is another truth. You are not alone. Blessed be. Thank you for coming.